Hey everybody, Larry Lawton here. I got a great podcast for you today here. Yes, this is a little bit different. I know this is going to be a little bit shocking, or it's just me here today. I wanted to put this up because I've been getting a lot of questions. I got a whole bunch of questions from fans asking stuff. And, I thought this would be a good time to really sit back, answer some of these questions, give some in-depth answers, and you won't be interrupted in any way possible. First, I'd like to thank Oliva Cigar. We love them. They have been with us for a long time. I gotta listen. They're great. Oliva Cigar. They've been with us for a long time. We also got the book Gangster Redemption is in. It's we're going to be talking about that. We got my cigars, the Crooked Diamonds. So you guys are going to love those. And obviously we have merch like this, the new Crooked Diamond ashtrays. We got the lighters and the cutters. We have everything. See, these cutters are pretty cool. If you see, there's actually a diamond in on the blade itself. So just something different. We wanted to do something interesting. So I thought I was going to jump into this podcast and I'm going to answer a bunch of questions. I don't know the questions. I got this piece of paper. I fought myself to look at the questions because I always think it's better. I always do think it's better if I answer them without knowing what the questions are. So it's like people, and now you guys are asking questions. You can come to my YouTube channel to do it. You can do it in comments. You can do it in Reddit. You can do it in Facebook, Instagram. You can do all that. We're going to be putting this everywhere. A lot of people have answered and wanted questions answered. So I thought this would be a great time. And I'm not going to do anything, about this. With further ado, so to speak, I am going to put this in right now. I jump in this. I'm loving doing this. This is something I always wanted to do. Is just to be really focused in on questions and give you the answers that I'm going to give. People know I'm going to say it like it is. I'm going to tell it like it is, good, bad, and indifferent, even my own mistakes. So we're going to jump in. All right, guys, stay tuned. The first question, Larry, what was the turning point in your life that made you want to leave a life of crime and start helping others? Wow. What was the turning point? Well, I don't know if there was a turning point more as a specific point. I could tell you the time that I said, man, I got to do something to start helping people. But I think that would have been when my buddy Jack died in prison and I was there. That was a sad situation. And I was in the hole when that happened. And he literally told me he was going to kill himself and he did it. And to this day, I think about that a lot. I think about, how precious life is and how quick it could, you could lose it. I do a lot of videos now and I see a lot of crazy stuff and I watch YouTube a lot and I give my opinions, whether people like them or not. I think everybody has them and I respect other people's opinions. People know that as well. But the exact point would probably be then. Then a lot of times we'd be on the yard, friends of mine and I, and even in the whole yard, if you want to call it that. And I'd say, man, look at these kids coming to prison. I got out of prison at 46 years old, and you're watching kids come in there at 19, 20, and they're coming into an environment you don't want to come into. And they think they're tough until they get there. Something crazy happens, and before you know it, it's like, oh shit, we got some problems. And so, I mean, that's the specific. I mean, to say a specific, I remember being in the hole actually when I did talk to somebody, and it was pretty wild, guys. I can just say that. A buddy of mine I worked out with a lot, man, and doing burpees, and he was in the cell next to me, and you could talk through the vent. And he says to me, "Larry," he goes, "I'm checking out, brother." Black guy, and I says, "What are you talking about, man?" And it dawned on me, man. And I jumped up on the stainless steel sink and toilet and went right in the vent and said, "Man, hey, Jack, lay down. I'll talk to you after count." It's 3:30, about 3:30. We did a workout and stuff. And he ended up killing himself during count. And they the guards went by they scream at the end of the tier, count time, stand up, count. You had to stand up, even in a hole. Or they'd sit and kick your door or whatever. But we went there. Sure enough, They go by my cell and they hit his cell next, and they stop, and you hear him say, man down," and everything started scrambling, and I jump up on the window. I'm looking, and they're coming and going, and they took Jack out on a gurney, and he was dead. They recounted, and man, I'll tell you, that hit me hard, and I won't get into a little bit more how it really hit my faith, or and I'm not a religious person at all. People who know me know that. But that one really hit me, and you started thinking about, why not yourself? But I also thought, man, this is just such a dead end. Prison is not the place to be for anybody. It really isn't, guys. Let's go. Question 2. How do you think the prison system could be reformed to help people rehabilitate instead of becoming repeat offenders? Wow, I could spend an hour on that question alone. The first thing they have to do is they have to want rehabilitation. And I think that comes from the higher ups. Prison has become an industry, it's become a business, it's become privatized on some points. And this goes for state or fed, it does not matter. The whole prison system has to start thinking more rehabilitation. Do you know, if you look into the other countries, whether it's Sweden and Norway and Germany, a lot of different countries. Listen, we are the worst prison system in the free world, and I'm not talking third world countries. I'm talking about, you know, uh, Germany, Spain, France, Italy, Canada. All these countries are regular countries that have a better prison system and a lower crime rate. So that blows you away too. But thinking about how they can do it. If they brought a person in and didn't vilify them, and I know our penal system, and first of all, our law books and everything says the first thing is punishment. Literally says that. And I get that part of the punishment, people, but I don't at all get where we're doing that whole thing of non-rehabilitation. And that is really what pisses me off in the whole system. And we as a people have to get back into that. And that's just simple as that. We have to do it like that. And if we don't start with rehabilitation, you're not going to get rehabilitation. And most of those countries do. The day they walk in that door, they don't treat them like scumbags. They've already been taken away from their families and everything else. And please don't tell me anybody, oh, but this guy did this, this, this. I'm not talking about the worst of the worst. I'm talking about most people who are getting out. Number 3, what was the most dangerous situation you faced during your time as a jewel thief, and how did you handle it? Wow, that's twofold. My time as a jewel thief, actually in a store, was obviously when we got shot. Uh, that's the most dangerous. I handled it because I knew my getaway plan. I knew how to get out of there. Listen, when I cased the store and when I did the getaways and everything else, I did them, and I knew the lights I would hit. I knew the traffic at that time. I knew if there were cops even in that route. Pretty much anything like that. I had that casing. It's called casing the place down. But I would say, I think there was one time, I'll never forget this. I was back in Brooklyn, and I ended up hanging out and meeting some guys, and I had this bad feeling. Now, as a connected guy, we weren't supposed to go to certain places. I did, of course, being a stupid idiot. But listen, I think if the situation just a hair different one way or the other, I would have been knocked out. I might have got killed. I think about that a lot because it would have been that easy for that to happen. Uh, and I have to say, I was pretty much aware of my surroundings, and I got out of the situation uh, on purpose, quickly. And if I didn't get out of that situation at that point, listen, I really believe I would have been dead. So, I mean, that would have to be the one I felt. The hairs on my head at that time I had hair went up. And I really think that's important to know. I really, really do. Okay. Number 4, having experienced the prison system firsthand, what's one thing the public often misunderstands about life behind bars? Oh, that's a good one. I think the public thinks of prison like they see on TV, and TV is bullshit. It's not like that. It's actually worse. You know, what people don't get about prison and being in prison, the violence is one thing. Being a guy who's in maximum security prison, you could be in a medium, you could be in a low, you could even be in a camp. Prison is prison. So I think what people don't understand is how much suffering people do on the inside, not so much as the outside. You're going to survive that. You're going to become a fighter. You're going to do what you got to do, or you're going to become somebody's wife, if you want to call it that. But what people don't understand is how much the people in there suffer on the inside. Now, listen, again, I don't want anybody to think out there that I'm the kind of guy that's sitting here saying, oh, we need to be liberal hearts. And these people, and myself included, we cause a lot of hurt and damage on people, and that hurts. That really does. Uh, and I don't want people to think that, oh, Larry's just wants the people to get away with shit. But there are people in there that are way overcharged or way over sentenced, and they don't belong there for that kind of time. Then there's innocent people, not a lot. Let me get that straight. But there are innocent people in prison, and we treat people wrongly, and that's because the public right there experience in prison. uh they misunderstand how you are and what really goes on in there, and what kind of system and how big the system is. And we got over 2 million people in prison in the United States. I think 2.3 or something like that now. The feds alone have 200,000. So now you take the states and everything else, and I think it's a whole different animal, people. So people just don't understand what goes on with everybody in there. I think they put you in a prison system and they just forget about it. That's why they call them the forgotten people. And that's the sad part. They are the forgotten people. I don't like it, but that is what happens. Number 5, Larry. How do you stay motivated to keep advocating for criminal justice reform and helping young people today? Yeah, that's a good one. I've been doing it for a long time, and I've learned that there's so many good people, and there's even good people out there trying to help people. I think what keeps me motivated is, listen, if I can help one person, if I can help one family understand what's going on, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you know somebody who's in prison, or you have a family member in prison, because that's why you might follow what I do. Uh, I hope you get some good advice. I get people saying that all the time. Hey, Larry, you helped my family member. You did this or did that, and I got off drugs, and I didn't want to get into that. That makes me feel good. Listen, I get hate mail like everybody else. People just want to troll you or do whatever they're gonna do. It doesn't bother me, it really doesn't. I don't give a rat's ass about that. But how I stay motivated is by seeing success stories, or getting those emails, or getting those messages on Facebook or wherever, whatever platform it is. I really think that means a lot for me. Uh, that helps me stay motivated. Then when I speak in front of groups and stuff like that, that helps a lot as well. And I think that's what makes me think, okay, you know what? It's helping. It's working. Listen, again, we got to try to affect as many people as we can. I believe that anyway. That's what keeps me motivated. Number 6, Larry, I love your channel. I love the podcast. Can you share a moment from your prison experience that changed your perspective on life? Wow, man, not reading these questions makes me think. I think that's a good one. Can you share a moment from your prison experience that changed your perspective on life? I think what really, a lot of people go to prison, they become hateful, or they come either race, they hate other races or something like that. I never got that way. I looked at people that it was an us against them mentality. When I first went to prison, I went to a very violent prison. It's called USP Atlanta. At the time, it was the worst prison in the world. Matter of fact, I just heard from my old cellie, and that was pretty cool. I heard from a couple of people these last few, I guess, month. And my buddy, I'll tell his name is Lee, and he even told me, he says, Larry, I remember those times that we were in such a bad place. And I really think that's it took a perspective on life itself. On people can change. You see so many different people from all crosses of life, from rich to poor to black to white to Spanish to American Indian, whatever it is. It does not matter. And you know what? People are people. We all put our pants on the same way. We all, have different ways about it. Listen, I got a New York accent. Everybody says, Larry, you got a New York. So then you get a kid who's from Alabama, and we could get along and we could do things and we could play chess and you can do so many things. So I think I've learned more than anything that people are people, man. Don't judge other people, please. If you don't judge other people. I will never judge anybody. And I don't mean like, judge until you walk in another man's shoes. That's when you realize you don't know shit. 7, what's the biggest lesson you've learned from your transition from criminal to an advocate for justice and reform? It's kind of like the last question. Like I said, I don't read these questions you guys send in. That's kind of that people are people. And I believe that's really important. I think that's important to know. I think, I don't know how you could say the biggest lesson learned from your transition from criminal to advocate. I think we all have advocacy in us. I hope they do. I really do. And I do. Hey, Morty, what are you doing, bud? So that's Morty. We all know Morty here, everybody. Morty, come here. You want to come over here? Come over here. All right, you're not. All right, don't worry about it, Morty. Okay, number 8. As someone who has been on both a criminal and an honorary police officer, wow, someone read their research. What do you think needs to change in the relationship between law enforcement and communities? That's a great question, and I answered that a few times. It's an easy question for me because I think and I say law enforcement, has to initiate this. They need to break down the us against them mentality. Most communities have, and police even have, with the community. Listen, I watch cop audit stuff. I watch all this stuff. You'd think these police would be smart enough today to, damn it, go not be sucked into somebody with a camera that know their rights. And I like those people. Good for them for doing that. They're putting these people on edge. Your job is not to carry a gun and bully people, and you see too much of that. But to break down the us against them mentality, the first things is law enforcement has to at least police itself. And you go, what do you mean? Well, if you take a company with 150 employees or 200 or 100 employees, whatever it is, there's bad apples there. What happens? They get weeded out by the company, by other employees that are overdoing their work for them or whatever it is. Well, no. Law enforcement is one of the professions that I really think need to be held to a high standard because this. So one profession, they could take your life and your liberty, or your liberty and life, under the color of law, meaning they're getting the benefit of the doubt that they did it right. We know by my channel and other channels, hey, listen, cops are human beings. I don't judge all cops, but I do judge the leadership of police. Listen, if you have a police department that keeps getting sued and the citizens of that community are paying that money to those people, then the leadership of law enforcement is not doing their job. They're not weeding out the people. They're not educating the people. The leadership has to make sure that, listen, they know who the mess ups are. They know who the fuck ups are. Let's face facts. They really do, people. And when they know that, they should act on it. Because the minute they don't, how does the guy get arrested and say, and he knows that the guy was a screw up? How many people you think know that the cops in that department are doing whatever they're doing? And I mean drugs or pot or forget pot or anything for that matter. And all of a sudden they get arrested for that. And they go, man, you don't even police your own. Now they can't cry because everybody says, oh, you're just complaining. But the leadership of law enforcement has to initiate the breaking down of us against them. Yes, they should have community people walking. I often suggest in a police department right here where I live, we have an area. I have no idea why they don't put a cop on the beat. And I say, like the old New York cops. I think in this town, a small town I live in, and I live in a town, well, it's small anymore, but it's an area where it's spread out and you can do this. They can put a cop on maybe a Segway, maybe I don't know, one wheel or whatever they can use. And they should go up and down the whole entire community. Like they have stores. They have an area where I live that's, an avenue, and it's got stores on both sides of the streets. How about putting a cop there from 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night? Walk the beat, walks into every store. He says hello to the clerks. He says hello to the manager. Hey, listen, somebody was there. They're right there on their seg. They could walk a person to their car. They could start interacting with the community instead of staying in a car, getting on the radio, and just stopping people doing stuff. If you get with the community and you interact with the community in a positive way, now you got to get the right cop to do that. Because the minute you got an asshole cop doing that, hey, I'm here. Listen, you got punks around here. It's going to be negative. It's going to be a negative interaction. They need to have more positive interactions when they're not talking to somebody about law enforcement in some way or the other. And I think that's very, very important. The minute they don't want to interact or just don't care. Listen, if they got to know all those people in all those stores, do you know how many positive interactions you'd have from the managers and the clerks and the tellers, wherever they are, the restaurant workers? They get out at night and they could hey, listen, they're a little scared. They can see in some people, and that happens. But if they hadn't knew somebody and they knew that number, hey, call us anytime. I'll be here. And the guy's up and down with a Segway instead of a car where he's off talking to people, not going to the next one, taking his time. You would see a big difference in the community because it's word of mouth. Think of what I'm saying. It's word of mouth. If the people in that place cared and the cop cared, you would see such a big difference in interaction. That's exactly what you'd see, people. And they need to do that. And that's one way to automatic. And, every one of these departments that, we're a small department. Well, put the guy, have him park his car. And if he had to walk a little bit, go walk a little bit. I always say Segways or bicycles or something. But something to interact. Listen, best thing, I was in New York City not long ago, and I went to Times Square, and then I went down to Grand Central. Well, in Grand Central, they got cops everywhere. They got cops everywhere in New York City. So I started talking to cops, and they were enjoying it. We had a good time interacting, and I think, man, these guys are great. I mean, they have 2 to a beat in New York, something 3, 4, whatever they're on. I mean, literally, they're all over the place because New York's such a target. But they're interacting with regular people. They're not saying, I was in the Grand Central, and it's all where the trains are and all that kind of stuff on 34th Street in New York. And the cops were really cool. We started rapping and laughing, and hey, can I take your pad? They really didn't want their picture taken, which was cool. I get that. They didn't want to be interviewed. They didn't mind the picture taken, obviously legal, but they didn't want to be interviewed. And I get that. They don't want to give a false narrative. The police department has its ways, especially a department that size, 40,000 cops. So, but I think that's really, really important. And it's something that people need to realize. Hey, Morty, what are you doing, bud? Okay. Number 9. What advice would you give to young people who feel like they have no other option but to turn to crime? I could give a lot of advice to that. First of all, if you're thinking of turning to crime, you show me one drug dealer or one guy who's still on the edges or whatever that has not gone to prison, not been killed, not been life. Listen, you work hard enough, you're going to be better off at the end of the day than you are if you rob something and you get that immediate satisfaction. So, I mean, listen, there's always a better way. How many people, Morty, come here, bud. How many people, guys, young people think, oh, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not, you know, I'm not the right color, I'm not the right race, I don't speak well enough to be in a certain position in life. But let me tell you something right now. What I've learned is, first of all, people are people. Life of crime is not going to make it, and I always say that. But if you think you have no other option, you're so way out of whack. I tell people getting out of prison, getting out. I got out at 46 years old, 46, in debt, nobody, bad criminal record, had to come live with my mom, nothing, no vehicles, nothing, no money. Ended up getting a broken down car because my dad had Alzheimer's, so it was given to me. And I made it. You know, you could make it. So I love people think that there's no options. Oh, I'm getting old. I'm 28. I was fired. I got in jail. Listen, whatever tragedy or whatever incident happened to you, you got to take that incident, turn it around, make it a positive. What I mean by that is, listen, if I'm gonna give a scenario, if you got caught for a DUI, well, yeah, it's not good. It's not great for your insurance. You're going to pay the price and all that. But now you have experience to tell other people how sucky it really was, what you had to go through. And I hope you realize that 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 mess up you had. I tell young people that. I'll tell everybody. Whatever happened to you, whether it's abuse, and I was abused, and in prison. I was abused as a kid. You can use all of these as, oh, I had a rough life and bullshit. That's an excuse because there's always going to be hurdles. Always. Get over your hurdles, but use your experience. Listen, often said, and often this is one of my big beliefs. Listen, I am not smarter than most of you guys out there. I mean, you're in school, you know more than me, whatever profession you're in. We're all, listen, I have a pretty good intelligence level and all that, but it's what I have is experience. That's why people usually come to my channel. I have experience. I'm gonna tell it like it is. I tell it like it isn't, it helps. It helps. So if you have experience for whatever screw up or not screw up, whatever it is, the life of crime is not the easy way. The easy way is not the easy way. I often call this generation, I know I'm wrong, and I don't hate to be like that old guy, I'm not young anymore, but I love to hear them and they'll say, young people, come on. I says, you think it's over already? Think about that, man. Think about that. You have experience now in something that a lot of people, whether you got arrested as a juvie, whether you screwed up, whether you got caught stealing. I don't care what it was. You got fired. Life is not over, man. If you're quitting already, then you're a quitter, man. Don't be a quitter. How many times are you able to get up off the mat and make it? A lot. I have. Most people have. Most people who make it in life fail 3 times before they become a very successful businessman. They fail because they learn from experience. You could learn from the experiences you have and not say, "Oh, my only alternative is, return to crime." How many times could have I did that and robbed the jewelry, robbed something? Believe me, don't think. I'd be a liar if anybody said it didn't pass your mind. Well, I don't know if it really crossed my mind that deep, but you look by, you go by a store, you say, man, these people are idiots. I know I could do it. I didn't rat. I got the connections. I can do it. Man, that's a dead end, and I know I can't go down. And I don't think anybody should go down. And that's the truth, guys. So that's what's really, really important. Okay, number 10. What was the most difficult part of adapting to life after prison, and how did you overcome it? Wow. Wow. The most difficult part would be, I think it's right. Listen, no matter who you are, if you did a lot of time, I did over a decade, you do more time. The more time you do, of course, you're institutionalized and you don't even realize it. So I remember I couldn't even buy a cup of coffee. I couldn't buy a sandwich at Subway. I remember the bus stopping. I think somebody might have heard it. but the bus stops at one of those stores, gas stations, and we're getting gas. You got 40 minutes to get something to eat. What do you mean get something to eat? I'm on a bus on the way to Tampa from Forest City, Arkansas. I looked like I was shell shocked in the real world, and adapting to life. I didn't know what money was anymore. Money changed the colors. I had no idea of the cars and the things. So much changed. There was no internet when I went to prison. What cell phones? I had a cell phone when I went to prison. It was so big. It was a strap over shoulder at first. Then it was those Motorola's, if you're old enough to remember those. And now you get out and you can't touch them with these big hands. How am I going to touch these fingers? Crazy. But I would have to say, to this day, I still get a twinge when a cop is behind me, knowing I'm clean, knowing I didn't rob anybody, knowing there's nothing in the car. I watch enough videos to say, do I trust the cops? Will I ever let a cop search my car? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I've seen enough videos where they do that and they plant something. They're not above that. They're human beings. If for whatever reason they don't like this guy with a goatee, or his mom was robbed by somebody, or his uncle had a jewelry store robbed, he looked me up. I don't know what people are capable of. But I still have that feeling. I don't like it to have that feeling either, guys. I don't. But it is what it is, and I can't change that. I think you're going to adapt to everything technology-wise eventually. But the most difficult part is that feeling you have when you run into law enforcement. In my case, it might be somebody else's have something else, whether it's, ordering something out of a restaurant, which I couldn't do for a while. Some really good friends, Dennis Broderick, John Bomolowski, guys who are really close to me, helped me get through all that stuff. And it sure wasn't easy, I can tell you that. But when you have friends and you just treat people, most people want to give you a second chance, and you have to realize that, and you don't, because the prison system doesn't give you a second chance. When you screw up, you're going to the hole. It's not like, oh, do it again, Lawton, you're going to the hole. No, you're in the hole. Number 11. How did your time in prison shape your views on personal responsibility and redemption? How did my time in prison shape your views on personal responsibility and redemption? I don't know if my prison did it. Obviously, you don't want to go back. I think seeing and hearing some of the crazy stories of people and what they've done, and listen, it makes me feel bad about what I did more. I mean, listen, I always felt bad, but thinking about, redemption, responsibility, and my personal responsibility. I mean, for the crimes, yes, you have to take responsibility. It's funny. A lot of people say, oh, everybody in prison, they say they're innocent. Nah, that's not true. You get around guys who are convicts. We know what we did. That doesn't make it, and a lot of us understand that. Now, we play the bravado, we play the macho bullshit, we do all that crap, and honestly, that's one of those things where you start reflecting on, you got to redeem yourself. Redeeming. Redemption is getting that. Say, how do you redemption is doing something positive, doing something in a different way to help people. And you have to accept personal responsibility. The minute you don't, the minute you think, oh, they deserved it. Listen, I don't care what the person did; they didn't deserve it. And although I didn't beat people, or I didn't, pistol whip people, I didn't do that. But you're still putting fear in people, and you're putting the fear that everybody's level of understanding of a crime or something, how they handle it is different. I've had people in jewelry stores start laughing, crying, close their eyes, squeezing them so tight. You say, "Hey, relax," So everybody has a different reactions, but you have to take personal responsibility. I did that. Not proud of it, and you want to make amends. Now you can only go so much because people have to get on with life, because everybody has something that has happened to them. You can't accept. We don't live in a rosy world of tiptoes and tulips and shit. We live in a world of survival. And the minute you understand that, you will take redemption because you don't want it to happen to you. So you'll take responsibility. I hope you do. And once you take responsibility, you can start on the next step, and that is redemption and doing the right thing by people. Hey, Morty, come here, buddy. Up, up. There's Morty. There you go. Everybody sees Morty. Everybody loves Morty. He's my boy. Right, Morty? Ah, my buddy. All right. Next question. What's one thing you wish you knew when you were younger? These are great questions. What's one thing you wish you knew when you were younger that might have kept you from getting into trouble? What's the one thing you wish you knew when you were younger? I don't know. I don't think there was anything, to be honest with you. I hate to say people are destined for anything. Maybe if I hung around gangsters, I hung around people on the streets, different time. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. Yeah, 60s and 70s. I was born in 61. So when I was 8, 9 years old, and you're hanging around with gangsters and your neighbors' families of gangsters, and I mean, it's just so I don't look at it like the one thing you wish you knew you were younger that might have kept you from getting in trouble. How about not getting caught? Let's be honest. Maybe doing a few things and then realizing right then and there it was wrong. But I wasn't that at that time in my life. And I was just a wild young guy. And a lot of you guys and young people out there, whether you're 20s or 30s or whatever age fucking up, I don't know if there's one thing. Maybe maturity. I mean, I wish I knew. Listen, I knew how hard prison was. Prison wasn't a shock to us guys. That wasn't oh, you're going to prison. It was almost like getting your wing, so to speak, getting your sergeant stripe to go to prison. It was like a badge of honor. Stupid as that sounds, but it was. And so I don't think there is one thing. Good question. Larry, love your channel. Keep it up. How has your background as a former criminal influenced your approach to running your business? Oh, that's a good one. Running your business today. How has your background as a former criminal? I would say my work ethic, maybe. I mean, I'm always, listen, I sleep very little. But I would have to say my background as a former criminal influenced your approach to running your business. Being more realizing that, first of all, I could care less what you did. If I'm going to hire an employer and I talk to friends who do and all that, I could care less if you have a criminal record. Obviously, certain things I'm not going to accept. That's just my own personal thing. I'm not going to accept child molesters or something like that. Listen. I hear people always say, "Larry, you should, forgive." I get it. It's very tough for me. Maybe it's that's the hurdle that I have to get on the inside over it. But as a former criminal, influence your approach to running your business. Listen, I think your word has to mean something, and I think that as a criminal and even a person in prison, your word had to mean something. I still think that's it. I mean, I believe in that today, and that will never end. That will never ever end. Say what you mean, and then mean what you say, and that's it. And run with it. And that doesn't mean you don't have empathy. That doesn't mean you give a second chance. That doesn't mean a lot of things. But for me, that's the only thing you have. And I think I learned that from being a criminal and then losing everything. Listen, they could take everything from you. They can't take who I am. Talk about rats and stuff like that. I never ratted. I actually got convicted later in prison, 6 years later, in prison, for lying to protect my own family member or my brother. So your words got to mean something, and it did. And I grew up that way. I don't know if that's just the criminal way, and then the prison way, and then now, and I think it should be. But would people do business with somebody like Sammy Gravano? I wouldn't do business with him, not at all. Now, listen, I don't even care about the rat. It's the guy had more chances, goes and then becomes. I'm not even getting to him. That would be wrong of me to do. Okay, number 14. If you could sit down with your younger self, what advice would you give him? Wow. If I could sit down with my younger self, what would I say to my younger self? What advice would I give him? Uh, like, one of my vices to people is just listen. You're gonna mess up, but don't be too hard on yourself. It happens. You're gonna do things that are messed up, but don't look at it like, oh, the world's ending. Life is, no matter how bad your situation is, going to prison. I was facing life. Uh, you listen, look at me today. I'm out here free. Look at Morty. Morty. Come here, Morty. Oh, my buddy. You my buddy, Morty. So I look at that. Come here, Molly. I got a cat and dog. I would actually have to say my younger self would be don't think the world's over. I mean, I don't know if that would have did me any good as a kid. I know some of these questions that people want to know a little bit in depth. I'm trying to give it, but sit down with younger self. I sit down with a lot of young people and I try to tell them, listen, you're gonna mess up. And listen, I try to help people not mess up totally, like their whole life. I want people to realize they're gonna make mistakes, but don't make the mistake that's gonna ruin the rest of your life. And that goes by like getting in a car with a bunch of guys that got pills or guns in it or something, and you're in that car and it gets pulled over. You think the guy is there and say, "Oh, it's mine." Come on, that's bullshit, and we all know it. So I think people got to realize that too. But listen, that's a great question, and that's the only way I can answer it. I got to be honest. 15. What do you think is the key to making lasting changes in your life? Wow, a lot of life questions. Lives of people who are at risk of getting involved in crime. What do you think is the key to making lasting change in the lives of people who are at risk? Uh, I think they have to have somebody everybody should have somebody. I don't care if it's a teacher, a neighbor, a friend, a parent, of course, that they can go to. And that will, the key to making lasting change is have people in your life. Uh, I think that's really what you need. I had some great, great friends. Since then, two of them passed away. Used to call us the Three Amigos, Joe Fermini and Louis Constantino. Uh, Man, I want to cry when I talk about those guys. My parents, my brother, my sisters at the time, all of them lost two since, but good friends, family. Now, that doesn't mean if you don't have that you don't have, you can find that. You could start talking respect, going to maybe if you have an addiction or some on issue you have, and you're going to meetings, or you're going to meet people throughout your life that want to help you, whether it's a Christian group or a Muslim group. I don't care whether it's a kind of a faith-based group. You can do that. That doesn't make them right. People know I'm not into that either, but I just think people are people. You can find good people anywhere. I happen to have, my word was always good, so the people didn't give up on me, and that's important. Families probably not gonna. I'm sure they're there. You could start, helping yourself during the way, on the way, doing this. You can do that. You can really do that, and I hope people understand that as well. You know, just because you get out, maybe you have family. Maybe if you have family, knock wood, you're good. Hopefully. My buddy just got out. 32 years, man. I'm telling you, I can't wait to see him. And he, of course, he lost most of his friends, his family, his parents while he was in 32 years. Got parole, but he's got his brother, and his brother's helping him. And I'm gonna help him, wherever we can do. And you will because he was a good guy. His word was good. Yeah, he messed up. I'm not going to get into his crime. It was pretty bad. But the guy's not a bad guy. Listen, you should never be defined by what you did or your acts or even who you were. People change. It pisses me off to this day when I hear politicians say, oh, 30 years ago you did this. Well, 30 years ago you were a different person. Hopefully you change. That's why I like it when politicians say, I voted that way 30. First of all, I don't like 30-year politicians, but if they are, hey, 30 years ago you voted this way. Well, you evolve, you change, you get more information. That's why it pisses me off when people just want to judge people from 30 years. Like you're this perfect person. Man, pisses me off. And that's just what it does. 16. This is pretty good, guys. I'm enjoying this. I mean, I got a lot of questions. We're going to keep putting them up. And thanks for keep writing them. What was the biggest culture shock you experienced after being released from prison? Biggest culture shock. It's kind of like that other question. I would have to say the internet for me. I'll tell you a funny story about the internet. I had a great porn collection. Yeah, I know porn. Yes, we all have it. I had porn on VCR. The big VCRs. I asked my wife at the time, great friends with her today. I says, hey, where's that collection I had, that big collection? So I threw it out. You threw it out? What do you mean you threw it out? I wanted that. I used to think about that. She goes, Larry, you just go on the internet, type something. I'll tell you what, talk culture shock. They show me. Type this in the computer. Oh my God, what popped up? Wow. I mean, you can get anything you want. Threesomes, twosomes, this. I don't know. I can go on and on. I think the internet, just the ease of information. As a guy who did the law for all those years, we used to have to what they call shepherdize. Shepherdize, anybody knows the law is when you have to take all the books and research cases, and you literally have to quote and write in your stuff the cases that this goes to and why this court should follow that law, of course, the Supreme Court and everything else. And we'd have books all over the place. Now, there's none of that. I don't even know what these lawyers do today. It's all computers. We had to research. So computers, access to information. Listen, I used to argue. I have a buddy, to this day, we're friends. He's one of the smartest guys I know with sports. I used to call him from all over, from Vegas. Tommy. His name is Tommy. He worked for me. I said, Tommy, who won this series? Who was the MVP? He'd know it off the top of his head. Today, you Google it, and you'll figure it out. It's funny, I mean, people have come up and told me things about me because of the internet. It's wild. It really is. I mean, they said, Larry, you're on United States Penitentiary Atlanta Wikipedia. What are you talking about? Information is everywhere. I'm on all these websites for different prisons, whether it's Lewisburg or Arkansas, Mississippi, Edgefield, whatever it is. I'm on these stuff, and because access to information is so easy now. They have so much. It's amazing what you can get with this stuff. And I can't get into some of the new stuff or whatever you want to call it. I still like to write. I like to figure stuff out. That's just me. But access to information, so the internet to me would be the biggest culture shock. There's going to be, when you go in for a long time, culture shocks happen, period. End of story there. Oh, wow. 17. This is one. How did you balance being tough and maintaining your dignity during your time in prison? I don't know if I was tough. I was just a survivor like anybody else. I knew how to handle myself because I'm from the streets. It's not about being tough. You set your freaking boundaries. You do that. And again, your word means something. I often worry about kids who've never been in a fight. Listen, man, it's not a big deal. You get a black eye, you get your lip broken, I don't care how bad it is, nose broken, whatever it is. And I've been in so many fights. I love guys. I never lost a fight. Well, you never fought the right guy, because I don't care who you are. You're gonna fight the right guy and kick your ass. So balancing being tough and maintaining my dignity. Listen, what you lose dignity. I don't give a fuck who you are. When you got to bend down and spread your cheeks and let people look up you and there's no dignity there when you lift your nuts and turn around and you have to do it. You lose your dignity. It's a shame. I talk about that now. I can go on anywhere and it's sad that I can just get strip searched and not even care. That's losing your dignity. So I don't know about keeping your dignity. Maybe it's maintaining something else, maybe, your own way of being or something like that. But, and as far as being tough guys never last. I don't give a shit who they are. They either get stabbed, they get oil poured on them. Something's going to happen to somebody. I don't care how tough you think you are. There's someone crazier. Has nothing to do with toughness. Morty, what do you say to that, buddy? Huh? That's my boy. You good boy. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's our guy, Morty, guys. Number 18. What are the first steps someone should take if they want to turn their life around after being involved in a crime? If you didn't get caught, don't go tell on yourself. I mean, I know people say, "Oh, Larry, that's not the Christian way." Whatever. Listen, there's the crime happened already. You can't change that. Can you redeem yourself? Can you make amends? Yes. Are there ways without involving law enforcement in a criminal justice system that's broke? Absolutely. The first step someone should take if they want to they first of all hope they want to turn their life around. That's number one. And it depends on your involvement in the crime as well. That's twofold. I hope you're not a follower and going on a robbery with somebody because he said to do it. Obviously, that's not the right way to go. Crime's not the right way to go. But maybe you want to speak to crime. First of all, let me tell you what's going to happen. If you do a crime, depending on the crime, a statute of limitations is going to happen. It is. When I talk about stuff, the statute of limitation is up. That means I can't be charged for it. They got me for enough, so that has nothing to do with it. But anybody, if you did a robbery today, 5 years from now, that robbery, if they're not indicted and they don't know who you are, listen, it could come out and it can be done. I hope you as a person, and you don't have to tell anybody, start mentoring young people about crime, saying, hey, listen, man, it's not, just the feeling might have changed you, which I hope it did. You shouldn't have a positive feeling after doing something negative to somebody like that. You shouldn't. It's not like I did. I mean, I felt like I beat the system, but I didn't hurt anybody. I was only hurting insurance companies. But when you get older, you start thinking about it. You realize how many people you hurt along the way, and even your own family. You know what I mean? You go to prison, you do certain things, your kids. I can go on and on. So I hope you stop. Number one, I hope you don't start, of course. But if you're involved in a crime, and especially depending on what it was, and what was it, just a robbery? Was it somebody got killed? Was it something different? I mean, that's a tough one, but I don't want you to just jump and say, people would say, oh, wow, you should tell them they have to go, tell the person. No, you might want to give money back. You might want to do there's a lot of ways to do it without putting yourself more in jeopardy. Listen, once you know you're wrong, that's part of what rehabilitation should be. Just because you're supposed to suffer now, that's bullshit too. Okay, 19. What do you think are the root causes of why so many young people end up in prison, and how can society address? Man, some great questions. Making me freaking think. What do you think the root cause of why so many young people it's not something like people say, oh, don't you think gaming is wrong and they shoot? No. I have to say it's the widening gap between the haves and the have-nots. Obviously, poverty is the number one driver of crime. And listen, I have a very good friend, Mike Force, former police chief, and my mentor, said to me once, he says, Larry, you're no different than me. If it meant me feeding my family and there was no other way, I'd rob you. So listen, hopefully there's ways to take care of that, obviously. But listen, the root causes is probably poverty. Then your environment. Listen, I grew up in an environment where it was criminals. I mean, it was gangsters and mobsters and other good people. I fell in it. My environment. Not that my environment was that. Listen, I loved where I grew up. It's not that the environment was bad. It was just that it was like accepted and normal. I don't know, what level you're at, where you're at, uh, but we can, as a society, address them by one, giving people that step up. A lot of people say, "Oh, let's just give them." They all need college. When I hear that, I want to like slap somebody in the head. No, there's so many jobs that are needed today: mechanics and plumbers and electricians. Listen, I own an RV. You can't get repair people. I don't know why people aren't getting into that. It's interesting. I'm learning it myself. Nick is learning it. Everybody's learning it because there's nobody to do anything out there. A good mechanic is worth its weight in gold. I have a Harley, and I was talking to the Harley mechanic, nice young guy, and he's a great mechanic. Went to the best schools, came number one in his school, and he's never going to stop. People need mechanics, man. He's good. He's honest. And that's what counts, man. And that's V Twin Calvin. That's Southern V Twin is the Harley place here in Melbourne, Florida. I use great guys, man. Shout out to them too. Calvin has worked on my bike, knows it. Obviously, we keep trying to figure things out, and we get it. He gets it. But I couldn't do that. And mechanics, again, get a plumber in your house and they screw old people. It pisses me off. But we need plumbers and we need people. We need general handymen. We need people who could fix doors and windows and have that general knowledge of stuff, man. You don't need to go to college, and everybody don't. And society's got to stop pushing that shit. And it's just some way to give a person a freaking degree on history that doesn't mean shit. I love history, don't get me wrong. Or I love this one, psychology degree. Everybody got yeah, okay. We're all nuts and they're crazy too. But society has to address it by getting jobs and letting people know that. And again, obviously poverty and I think uh, lessening the gap between the people who have and the people who haven't. Let's face it, we need a middle class, and sadly, that's going away, and that's what's sad. Here is number 20, my last question. Number 20. Man, this is great. Listen, there were more. I should have took more. What role did your family play in your journey from being a criminal to an advocate for change? Listen, I give all credit to everything I've happened to my family. My mom, who I take care of to this day, she's 91. You guys know that if you watch my channel. Please check out my Larry Lawton Jewel Beef channel. Check this one out. We're trying to be here more. I really want, listen, as far as being an advocate, my whole family knows how broken the prison system is. People in my own family were abused by the prison system by visiting me and getting harassed and having to go buy clothes because it was just an off tint color or some shit. They realize how broke the system is and how these people have a vindictiveness towards the people in there. And that spills over to your family. So my family happened to know that. They've been abused. They've been abused in a certain way. Man, I could tell you stories of what happened to my family, and they don't give a shit. When my nephew cracked his head in a prison, and they barely gave us directions to a hospital. No, let's get him to the hospital. My dad was there for me all the time, and they used to come and visit me all the time. And when they did, even my friends, and they all knew how bad the system was. So I think they all helped me become an advocate, because when I got out, I did some radio shows and maybe I was a natural at it, and I was open enough after building my business and realizing that man, we got to help more people, and that's how I became an advocate, especially with the reality check program, seeing young people. If you don't know that, I have the reality check program and I do public speaking. So if anybody's out there and they hear this and they need public speakers anywhere around the world, listen, I'm always looking to go to like Australia or somewhere like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm very reasonable and opening people's eyes like you wouldn't believe. I have clips and stuff of that. And I love that because I think that's what helps me open people's eyes, save some people. I remember speaking in front of 300 people one time, and somebody says, "Hey, Larry, I love what you do, but I would never do anything wrong." Boy, did I stop him. I said, "Hold on. Let me explain something to you. If you drive 20 miles over speed limit and kill somebody by accident, that's vehicular homicide. You could go to prison. Are you a bad person? No. Did you make a mistake? Yes. Who doesn't drive over 20 miles an hour over the limit? Come on, guys. I'm being real. I catch myself getting up there. But now, the older I get, I catch myself not getting up there, which I'm happy about. Listen, the speed limit's fast enough. When I grew up, it was 55. Now it's 70. You don't need to be going 90. I mean, I've done it still to this day, passing somebody, doing something, getting away from a bunch of people with crazy traffic. My point is, anybody can go there, and the people who know that and realize that will help you become an advocate. Because I think more and more people are knowing how our prison system is messed up, and our whole criminal justice system's messed up. It's still the best in the world. I believe that, and I hope people believe that. So I want them to realize that we can change the system. We're going to reduce crime. Got to remember something. If we can reduce recidivism, a rate of a person going back to prison, not only do we save money, we prevent more crime. And until people realize that and don't think they're so hard, it's the people who are stuck on everybody's bad. They think they're perfect. I don't care if they go to church and they go to confession and say that one. As God said, we're all sinners. And I believe that as well. All right, man. Listen, check out my book, Gangster Redemption. Get it here. I sign them when they go out. All of our stuff, my cigar. I'm going to light up a cigar now. Have a good cigar. Get our merch, cup, whatever you want. I really want to tell you guys thank you for being here. I hope you like I did this way, did something different, and I wanted to do it. I think I'm going to do it more. I love the questions. Man, some of them are great questions. Surprised the shit out of me. I usually get different kind of questions. I mean, I said, give me some deep questions, and they did. You guys read it. Thank you. Read all of the platforms. Thank you, guys. And I thank you for watching, man. I really appreciate it. Please stay safe. Make good choices. Don't go where I went. Ask questions. Pass this on, please. Like, subscribe, and please pass it on. Have a great day, everybody. Please stay safe. See you next time.